3, 2, 1.
Great. I'd like to call the meeting of the Oregon City Public Library Board to order at 5:03 p.m. on April 25th.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to thank everybody for their flexibility to shift the date. I'm sort of stuck tomorrow with a whole bunch of literacy kids that I committed to. And so I really wanted to, as you'll see, this is really about the budget and it's time sensitive. So I'm very grateful that everybody was flexible enough to switch. So thank you for that. First order of business is, well, let me call the roll call. And I'm here, Cynthia Andrews is here, Larry Osborne's here, Heidi Blackwell. Nick is available on Zoom, Nick Dierkman, and Bill Carton is here. And we've got a special guest, Lisa Orskovich, is that correct? Yeah. Who is a nominee to the board and will be approved probably in a month, but she's not official at the moment.
I think May 3rd is
May 3rd.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the big.
May 4th.
Yes.
And I know the mayor is excited about it because she actually mentioned it to me. She was excited that you were going to be on the board. So there we go. So first order of business is review of the minutes of the January 25th board meeting, and if there are any comments or corrections, I entertain them now. If not, I'd like a motion, please.
Move we accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Right.
Aye. Thank you. And then Wednesday, March 22nd, regular meeting, same thing.
I move we accept them.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. We're going to have a brief library director's report because we really want to spend the bulk of the time on sort of where we are on the budget and what the process is about and what we want to do about it. So there we go.
Thank you, David. I will, yes, keep it brief. One thing, just a heads up for future meetings, Denise has been working with our city recorder to review all the minutes that have been approved and posted to the website. We did find a couple of minutes that we neglected to bring to you. They were a couple of them were for board member interviews, which the minutes will just be the library board conducted interviews.
Okay.
But we're trying to get caught up with all of them. So I think at our next meeting, we'll probably five, six. Yeah, that will bring to you. So I do apologize for the backlog in that.
I mean, we're kind of the. We're gonna remember.
The only thing I'll say events wise is just remind. Well, first I'll say it's happy National Library Week this week. Today is actually Library Staff Appreciation Day, and so we did receive some treats from the library board. So thank you very much. That was well received. That was much appreciated by staff. They feel really great knowing that they have a library board who supports them and is behind them. And we all wore our local shirts today, so lots of us wearing those. Events wise, we are all getting prepared for May the 4th festivities next week. We're really excited about that. I almost brought it up, but I knew it would derail the whole meeting if I brought our lightsaber. So after the meeting, if anybody wants to see the lightsaber that will be raffling off, let me know. I'll take you downstairs. You can wave it around.
That's the nerd room. It's the chair.
All my family. You've been coming to me before.
Good. We're very excited, and we will have another. So that prize was donated by Saber Forge, it's a local business who makes replica lightsabers. They generously donated. We will also have a really cool Lego X-Wing set that was donated by our friends at the library. That's
Stealing my thunder.
Forget you heard it.
Never mind.
I just tried to make it for.
Again, tell them about your interview.
Oh yes. I have to send this out. We got approached by Coin6. So there will be a little segment on the morning of May the 4th on, I forget what the show was called.
But 4, he comes out at 5 o'clock.
I will be appearing. I will have my X-Men garb on and just talking about the libraries May the 4th. events and promoting that, so that should be fun. And then there's a budget hearing that same evening, so I will, should the budget meetings go that long, I will be appearing at the budget committee meeting in my next week. So keep the proceedings interesting, if nothing else.
I will not be Baby Yoda.
I still got a week to work on. The only thing I wanted to, on the stats, the only thing that caught my eye this month, and I did a little, we had another really great library card registration month. We had 341. I looked for our link stats, and we were the third highest in the county in March. There are only 2 libraries that registered more than us. And I don't have data to back this up, but the 2 libraries that were higher than us was Milwaukee and Happy Valley. And I suspect some of that might be because of Multnomah County closures. So I think those 2 libraries are getting a lot of traffic from Multnomah, which I know they are because I talked to a colleague from Multnomah County, and they have been telling people, yeah, go to Happy Valley, Milwaukee, because our registration closed. I was really pleased at the number of library cards that we gave up. We've had several really good months this year. It shows that people are coming today, which is great. Other than that, I don't believe I have anything else that I wanted to talk about, but if there are any questions about stats or any of the updates I've been sending on a weekly basis,
I just had a comment.
Sure.
It always pleases me when I look at the split between the city and the county or unincorporated area, and the fact that we have 38% of the materials are being checked out by an incorporated area, which is, I think, I forget what our split is in terms of percentages, but it's always great. It's always great to see that percentage is that high.
Yeah. And you're right. Sorry, speaking of unincorporated, the survey is, I have to check in with Jason, but they've got the survey. It's all been finalized. When I talked to them before I went to OLA, they were just doing some final testing, so I anticipate that it's out there by this point, and hopefully we're on track for mid-May or having some results. I'll keep everybody posted on there.
Okay. Any other questions or any public comment? No public comment. Lisa, nothing. Okay, budget.
Okay, so I gave you a lot of material. I don't know, we're happy to answer any questions you have about anything that was in the packet. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes kind of bringing everybody up to speed where we are and then what's going to happen going forward. As you know, we've been working very hard to make sure that the library board is able to fulfill their responsibility under Oregon City Municipal Code of participating in the development and the presentation of the budget. Thank you, everybody, for being engaged in that process. It's the first time we've really done it this way, and I found it very useful. So the last time we met, we had shown you kind of the proposal that we were planning to bring to the city. In between that time, we have had, our meetings with the city. There have been some refinements. So what's in your packet is the budget that was actually included in the whole city budget that's going to the budget committee. The budget book doesn't go into a lot of detail, which is why I gave you the spreadsheets. I'm just going to hit some highlights of the budget proposal, and then if there are any questions or discussion, we can go for there. So we had identified some priorities that we hoped to see reflected in the budget. One of them that I'm really, really pleased about is we did zero out fine revenue in our operating budget. We moved it and budgeted in our facilities fund so that as fine revenues come in, they can be put towards a capital reserve. And it may seem like just an accounting thing moving from one to another, but again, I think it's really important for us to be able to say that the minute that the county or the district is ready to go fine free, we will be able to do so with no operational impact. We have not budgeted any of that money for core operations, and so we can just say yes, we're financially ready to go fine free, which is very important. We did, in an effort to kind of help address some of the collection stats that we weren't happy with, we did budget some additional funds for collections. We did budget some additional funds for programs. The biggest additions to the budget are we had hoped, to have some more positions to convert some of our on-call positions to at least partially benefited positions. Originally, we had a plan which we thought we might be able to do more, but after successive rounds of discussions, what we landed on was our budget includes 3 positions. So there are 2 3/4 time library assistant 2 positions. One of those will be in the circulation department to make sure that our circulation supervisor has the support that she needs to be able to manage circulation operations 7 days a week. We think that might also give us some capacity for some projects that are important to us and are part of our tactical plan, including homebound book by mail and doing some additional outreach. So we think that position will help with that. We have another 3/4 time library assistant 2 position that we're proposing in our youth services department. So that will give some more capacity to do things like story times and some other kids youth related programming. It will really give us some more stability when it comes to scheduling in that area. For those 2 positions, our plan is, that's an addition of 1.5 FTE. So our plan is we're going to reduce our on-call FTE budget by the same number, 1.5 FTE. The dollars don't exactly match up because of the benefits component of it, but we did try to save some money on there. The other position we have proposed is a 1.0 FTE librarian 1 in youth services. The reason behind that, there were 2 reasons behind that. One is that if this budget is approved, our plan is for our teen librarian to be housed in our adult services area, which will help with staffing and resources up here. We needed to backfill that position down in youth services because that would have left just 1 full-time staff member in youth services, which is not what we want. So the idea is if we move Sabrina, our teen librarian, up to adult services, we will hire a new 1.0 FTE youth services librarian. And since they won't have teen kind of in their portfolio, they'll be able to focus on kids up to the young tweens, kind of 8th grade. Right? Yeah, I think what we're focusing on, and that operationally that will help. And I think that will be very positive. So we're excited about those proposals. We're hopeful that those will get approved. In order to pay for those things, we have started the process of using some of our accumulated library fund balance. So the last time we had put together kind of a 10-year plan for how we would draw down that balance. That plan also included some increased general fund support to kind of provide a glide path. That is not what the current budget proposal includes. So I have given you in your packet, I kind of showed you the revised estimate that we did. Basically, if nothing changes, we can continue doing this for about 6 years. And so after 6 years, we're going to have to figure out what that looks like, what that means. I'm very, very hopeful, and I know we'll be able to do that. I would like to go out 10 because that's where our debt service gets paid off, but we're going to go out 6. As part of the discussion was also, we had talked previously about our target fund balance reserve. It was previously the formula was 7 months worth of operating expenditures, 1 year of debt service, and a 10% contingency, which came out to about 65 to 70% of our expenditures. We've talked with our finance department, and they're comfortable with us reducing our target reserve level down to about 52% of our anticipated expenditures. So that freed up some of that fund balance to be able to be used for operations. And I think those are the main things that we put in there. We shared during our last meeting the list of projects for the community facilities funds and those capital related projects. We're excited about the possibility of partnering with the foundation to do an outreach vehicle, to do some book lockers. So there's money in the budget for that. And other than that, and then the process going forward. Actually, let me pause there. Are there any questions about the material that I presented, about what we presented as part of the budget proposal?
Only one. Do you separate the no fine initiative for just no fines for late returns, and is it different from the fines or the collection for lost materials?
Yes.
Yeah, separate.
So I mean, revenue, we're not budgeting for either of those because they all go into the same account. But when we talk about the system going fine free,
Yeah,
and that's only for
late return.
yes. So if somebody loses a book, then that's a different conversation. The goal of going fine free is to, for some people having, a couple of dollars on their account is enough to prevent them from ever using the library again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, that doesn't feel right to us. But yes, so late fines and lost or damaged items are completely separate fines.
Perfect.
So from a budget standpoint, Greg, how much are we getting from the general fund at this point for the next?
So, in the budget proposal, and there are different ways to look at this. So, on the revenue side, the general fund contribution has gone up from $150,000 to $230,000 a year, which is an increase. On the allocated charges side, our allocated costs have gone up from they were 150, 160, I believe they were, and they have now gone up to 211,000, 211,400 one year, 211,700 the next year. So the delta between those is about $18,000 a year. So net general fund. Your general fund, after allocations have been taken out, we're getting about $18,000 a year, so about $37,000.
Okay, thank you. One other question real quick. I'm trying to think back in terms of the number of positions that we originally, the plan was to convert to these part-time with benefits. What was that comparison before? I don't remember the exact numbers.
Our original thought, when we did our first scenario, it was 8, if I remember correctly. We had identified 8 positions that we would pull back part-time hours and create at different levels, library assistant 1, library assistant 2, and a couple of them had different allocations. There were some 75%, there were a couple of 50% benefits, but basically 8 positions, and we're down to. Now we have 3, and then we just did some soul searching about where we thought the need was greatest, and especially with what we're trying to accomplish with our tactical plan going forward, and based on some of the responses from the community survey.
When Greg says now we have 3, that is the budget that the city manager has submitted to the budget committee for review. So that's where we are.
Yes, and I should say that the FTE count is not 3 greater than it was last year. The FTE count is 1 greater than last year because, again, those 2.75 positions, we backed off on call hours. But just given that, I have to give Denise a whole bunch of credit and thanks for constantly running scenarios of all right. How many, if we do this, how many people do we need to cover desks and what can we get along with on calls? And so thank you for all the work. And answering all my questions all the time on that. But that's kind of where we are now is with even with getting those 3 positions, we still need about 5 to 6 on-call FTE equivalents to be able to cover desks and to get the work done on a daily basis.
And why was that changed?
It was changed because during the course, so that proposal, in order to make that pencil out over the longer term, there was a component of that included talking about some additional general fund contributions, and that's not, the city's not at a point right now where, at least at this point in the process, that's a realistic expectation going forward. So we came back and we thought to ourselves, rather than, we tried to sharpen our pencils the best we could and to get a proposal on there that would help address some of our staffing needs and primarily focus on just using that fund balance.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Question on general fund revenue. Every time I hear that, I don't understand how that can happen. What's the rationale for decreasing our general funding? There must be some reason.
There's been no, my sense of that is historically, there's been no pressure otherwise. And so there's been no negative impact of it. So it's an easy place to take money from.
Library still
That's, I think it's that simple that, you know, they're looking for places to take money. For 10 years, they took money out of the library. And there's been they got away with it. There's been no backlash. Nobody commented on it really.
Well, Tony mentioned to us a few times that we have another source of income.
Yeah.
That other departments do not.
Yeah. And so, yes. And so the general fund is, those are revenues that pay for a lot of things in the city. I think most of police budget comes out of general funds. I mean, at least we'll know better than I know. And it, you know, it's a defined pie, right? And so it's just over time, it's how do you divide up that pie? And yes, over time, the library slice of that general fund pie has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's, you know, I think those funds have gone to other departments, and the budget committee and the commission have made decisions that, okay, we're going to allocate general fund dollars over here and then coming over there. And like Denise says, I think sometimes what they look at and say, oh, you've got a library district, you know.
So, if I understand this right, since there are no consequences to decreasing it, there's no reason not to decrease it.
Yeah.
Is that a summary?
That's what I believe.
Well, never mind.
Yeah. That's the word I've been living here.
Perhaps our high satisfaction ratio in the survey isn't the motivation to give us more. It's
Yes.
there.
And just to give you a sense of where this additional allocation is going, you know, there's been some additional money that has been allocated that comes out of our share, and there's going to be an assistant city manager. So we've got 17,000, or I don't know what it is, higher than that. It was 40-something thousand that we're paying for out of our budget, out of what is allocated from us to pay for that. So I mean, it's that kind of thing.
Shifts at the library.
So money moves around in a pie, and this has been, I think, the avenue of least resistance. Nick, do you have any sense of that?
Not really.
Weak is a profound.
Yeah.
But what you've done, I mean, this is rather discouraging. I mean, I'm not, you know, because we were hoping for something else, right? But what you've done this year is to set the stage for some different approaches to the city in future budgets. And all this information that you've shared and David will be sharing is likely not to fall on all deaf ears. And so what you've done is stop, or at least alert people to stopping a very negative practice and to begin to build a longer term approach that when you keep going back year after year with new updated data that's going to tell the same story, you've got your storyline developing, and that's really important. It's maybe more important than the actually getting one more full-time person, because you've got a mass of data now to build on for the future, and I think that's really critical. And you've got a plan, and that plan, fortunately, was flexible enough that you could benefit from the amount of money that you could get, but it's going to go into the future. I think that's really critical. I really commend you for that.
The only other comment I was going to make is that if we get to the point where general fund or that allocations is greater than general fund, that's when it's going to be painful to explain through the library district. But we tend to be approaching that. But right now we're okay because it's the whole allocation bit from the LDAC discussions. That comes up as a point, like we shouldn't be using library district funds for allocations, even though logically, to me, it makes sense that we couldn't survive without having those services that we are paying for through allocations.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also had an informal meeting with the mayor several weeks ago, just the beginning of April, and she is very supportive. In fact, she has articulated that she would like to see a better balance between what the city contributes and what comes from the unincorporated areas. But as you saw from the testimony that I gave, the annual testimony before the board, where I started to get into some of these budget things, and we asked for a work session, and the feedback was Denise was very much for it, but a couple of the board members said, we're going to have to do this for every department if we do it for the library. And so it didn't happen. But they certainly heard, and we're going to get another crack at this. I don't think we're done yet this time. I mean, I don't think we ought to just assume that this is a done deal. But that's where we are. And the process has, so I share what I know of what the process will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll pop in.
Yeah, please. So the city manager has now completed what his staff says should be the budget for the city. It's going to the budget committee, which is half the commissioners and half other people from the community. They're starting their hearings this Thursday on the budget. I plan to be there and give testimony. You've got a draft copy of the testimony, which I'd like by the end of the meeting we'll clarify, make sure that you're all on board and that you authorize me to do this. And attaching to that these sort of brief Oregon City Library fact sheet that you got in your packet. And as you can see, the different contributions from other cities is rather different, to say the least. And maybe this will get onto some ears. We'll see. So there's going to be testimony taken, public testimony at the beginning. The plan is at the beginning of each of these meetings. Then they're going to go into the meeting. We don't know if they're going to get to the library budget this Thursday or not. So we go over to next Thursday. Lisa said it often will take 2 meetings to get through all the details. There's a lot of just technical stuff at the front end to appoint people and get approvals and all that. But I plan to be there this Thursday and to testify, and then we'll be available when the budget is actually dealt with at the table to answer questions, the 3 of us, and you're all welcome. So that's the plan going forward, to see if we can shift this net contribution, which is the only thing that really matters to me. I mean, that to me is really where the rubber hits the road. Is the city supporting the library actively? And I don't believe it is. And I think it hasn't for 10 years. And I think we need to let them know that that's what we think, and they'll do what they do, and we'll move on. At some point, and whether we're there or not, I think we need to get the foundation and the friends to sort of contact the city saying, we're aware of this now, and this is not, we don't approve of this. And the way to do that really is to send an email to the city clerk. Is that right?
Yeah, if there's any testimony, the written testimony that people would like to make sure the budget committee gets, the best ways to send it to Jacob or to the recorder so that he can make sure it gets distributed to.
Right. And I wouldn't be shy of asking people in the foundation or the friends to comment on this. I also mentioned to Heidi earlier today, and I know it's just very late in the process, but to have one of her kids from the youth available to be able to.
We'll see if we
Yeah, if we can get somebody, I'll happy to brief them. We can go through this, and they can speak. It's 3 minutes. It may be a good experience for them, and be trained. Yeah, so that would be a good thing as well. You've got a copy of what I would like to testify to, and it's pretty detailed, but, and I don't want to necessarily wordsmith it, but if you're seeing anything that jumps out or you disagree with anything particularly, or you think something could be stronger, please don't hesitate to come to do that. And I want to submit it tomorrow and then I'll present it on Thursday.
So, David?
Yeah.
On the Oregon State Library facts, in
Yeah.
that column that shows the fund contributions, does it help our story to list the populations of those cities? Because several of them have smaller populations that are contributing
Well,
more,
that's a good idea. I think that's a great idea.
right? I mean, you have, if you want to keep it to one side, you'd have, but only if it tells our story.
Yeah, contributions.
My role provide facts. So, we have, I just remind the board, yes, we have the largest service area population in all of Clackamas County. So every other city will have a smaller service area population than we do.
Well, why don't we do that then?
I think that's part of our story. And I was shocked when you displayed that information a couple of meetings ago. I'm thinking, this can't be right, and yet it is. And so I think a little more comparative data there, simple, I think would be helpful. If it makes it too cluttery, then forget it. But, I think it does tell a tale.
David, what new? I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Oh, I know, Nick. Yeah.
But I'm curious, from what new information are you sharing this time that you didn't in your presentation to the commission?
One, it's a different group. I mean, it is the commission, but it's also the budget committee. So they haven't heard that. There's a little bit more detail in this, particularly related to the staffing. I didn't realize that 2/3 of the staff are on call, which I just find crazy. And I didn't know that until we did more research. So that's there. The fund balance, there's a piece in there that the city has agreed to some release of the fund balance. So there's just some acknowledgement that in fact they heard us and that they are willing to use some of the library fund balance. Other than that, is there anything else?
So when you said 2/3 are the part, are you saying part-time or the non-benefited?
Yeah, non-benefited. So when you look at the FTE count, the equivalent count, it's about 40% of our FTE. But if you count the number of people that we have on our staff, we've got about 33 people on staff. 11 of them are benefited folks, and about 22 are right.
So you're saying 2/3 are not benefited, but you're not doing it on an FTE basis. You're doing it based on number of employees.
Yes. So yeah.
All right. I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah. On FTE, it's about 40%. But I will say from our perspective, even a 0.25 FTE, still a single human being who we manage and we support, and we work.
40% is pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to manage.
I mean, it seems one of our roles. I mean, we're advisory to both the staff and to the commission, and staff have to be careful. I mean, Greg works for the city manager technically, right? I mean, and sort of he's responsible to us. He doesn't want to piss us off because we. But really, he's in a compromised position in a sense, and we can be tougher. I mean, I have no compunction to say this is outrageous. This is unethical. It's been 10 years of defunding. Does the city support the library?
And when you say they may reduce services, they have reduced services, at least in the children's department, with the story times and with some of the other free play opportunities.
True.
That's something I've heard from community members, and asking about that inflation because we just don't have the staffing. Same thing with opportunities for youth, for the teen. They're opening the space and trying to provide supervision for this, which is another thing that's been identified as the city is something that's a need. So the library, has had to reduce one thing that is very important, and then is trying to fill another one with this budget, with the needs or with the needs for this. Is weird. I've identified a need and would be willing to address it with just this, these requests.
And part of this is sticking a stake in the ground and saying enough. Now we've seen this really for the first time, that trend. And we want to, as you said, we want to put an end to it if we can and reverse it. Clearly we need a new library district. What's the mill levy? I mean, the mill levy is just ridiculous. Ridiculously low. And so, there'll be a political process at some point in the next, my guess, 10 years, hopefully less, to try to get another thing on a ballot. But that's going to take every city and, agreeing and the county agreeing. So it's.
Well, and the survey didn't support it. The city survey that was done, that was one of the things I looked at, and it. No. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. On item 2, under library debt service. Okay. I'm wondering if this group, the commissioners and the budget committee, understand what a library district is. Because when I first read through this quickly, I was thinking that isn't real clear if you're not a library user. Maybe you explained this to them last time, or not a library user, library board member. Do they understand what a library district is and what it does?
I have no idea.
So, because the point is then that last sentence, however, debt payments and construction costs have been made largely from library district revenues. Well, if I'm a budget board member or a city, budget person, I'm going, well, good. Why is this a problem? And so, yes. And so I know you don't want to make this document or your presentation hugely long or too technical, but I'm wondering if it would be beneficial to just say what that library district is and why continuing to pay this debt service from district revenues is not a good thing. How will they know that? Why is it, if you look at that last sentence, why is that not a good thing? I mean, we understand it.
The issue was the statement they made in the pamphlet that said they will contribute other city funds for debt service. And, while technically they can say, well, that 36,000 is for this biennium is our contribution to debt service. And so I want to get into a sort of a technical, debate with them about that, because technically they're correct. But if you look at how our city supports the library compared to the other cities, there's no comparison.
So that pie chart would be helpful. That's a visual, at least the pie chart of where the funding is in the notes.
If I'm trying to. What I hear Cynthia saying is, I think it's that notion, it's that understanding of that, yes, a library district exists, voters approved a library district at 39 cents per thousand. But the original intent of those funds were to support operations, right? And so when you're taking money out of that operating fund to pay for debt service, it's not free money. It's you're deliberately reducing the amount of dollars available for staffing, for materials, for programs.
See, that's the point that needs to be made, clearly made. If you don't understand what the library district is in the first place, and why this isn't a good idea, because on paper it looks like a good idea.
No, I see.
But the library district assumes that the city would support the debt service. But the city said they wouldn't raise taxes to service the debt. So where else does the city get money? Taxes. Unless they print it.
I mean, and we have a history also of how we even accumulated the monies that we spent. Some of the money we didn't fund everything through a bond. I mean, there were monies that were already collected that were also used as part of that. And so basically, what's happening is that it continues on. But as Greg was saying, I mean, this topic gets debated a lot at LDAC, and because of exactly what Greg said, the fact that the intent was that it was going to be focused on operations and ensuring that the libraries would stay in business. And the other aspect is, I think, other than Sandy, we are the only city that is doing it this way. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes.
That is my understanding. So, as a comparison, Milwaukee recently expanded their library. They did the same thing. They went out and got voter approval for GO bonds to fund their construction.
Mm-hmm.
They did not say they were not going to raise taxes. They said, okay, we're going to borrow more money, and part of what you're voting for is that, yes, you will allow your taxes to be raised to pay off those bonds. This Oregon City took a different approach, which was we are going to borrow money, but we're going to not raise taxes to generate and pay them back. We're going to pay them back with those existing operating funds.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we are the Sandy did a tiny, a small amount of it, but, and Nick is correct. That is a topic of conversation at almost every LDAC meeting.
But I agree with what Cynthia was saying also about the this discussion at this point in time with the commission and with the budget committee is really setting a new foundation for going forward. And I mean, we have a lot of history that are built into how we got to this point. But the bottom line is, it's not where we've been; it's where we're going. So we have to figure out, and I think what's been proposed is a good approach, unless somebody else can come up with something better.
It may be more motivating to the city to elevate the staffing, fairness, and equity issues over some of the other details in the weeds, and just say, is this not a city initiative to not have 2/3 of the employees be on call and so forth? Well, you might have to read the room.
I think that's not very equitable, is it?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll make a change to 2 that will basically say that the library district revenues, which were really intended for operating revenues, not capital.
Yeah, right. I think you can make that statement.
Yeah, good.
I think it's how you read the documents, but not relevant, particularly when we compare to other cities.
Yeah. Okay, so the 2 things I've heard is we'll clarify that in number 2, and we'll add a comparison of populations to the fact sheet, which we're going to send this probably tomorrow or Thursday morning.
And I can provide you with population numbers.
All right, great. Because basically that, and we may want a 3rd column that just basically says city contribution per capita.
If that is the case, I can provide you the data.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a good idea.
It'd be a quick, clean look.
Yeah.
Without cluttering up paper and minds.
I think it'd be fine. No, I think that's a good point.
Paper and minds.
Yeah.
Is Sandy still paying off? Are they still paying that off, or did they close out that the bond?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I have to go back and look at the LDAC reports and talk to the library director. I believe there was some talk in the last couple of years that they might pay that all off. But I don't know.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't, without verifying it, I wasn't 100% sure. But are you saying adding a column that would say what the amount of money that the cities are spending on bonds? Is that what you were saying?
No, we're saying a column that said what the net contribution per city, what the population per city, and what the population of Are we gonna do just the city or the,
Yeah, you gotta do the service
the
station.
service?
Whatever tells your story.
Yeah, but
I can provide you with both service area population numbers, and I've got that broken down by city versus other.
right, and then
So I will provide you the data and however you see
Okay,
fit
fine.
to use it. This is one of those things, as a staffer, I will provide data.
That's right. So basically, the column is what the net contribution was, and the latest data they have was just fiscal 21. And then the population, and then per capita contribution by city. And we're gonna look pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know if the other cities also have service allocations the way Oregon City does for infrastructure and IT and things like that?
Yes, some do, and actually, I'll let Nick answer that, 'cause Nick knows just as well as I do, so you want to take that one, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, allocations is another topic that gets discussed a lot. I think the majority of the cities are actually doing allocations.
At the same huge ratio that we're at.
I think some are even more.
Yeah,
I don't think we're the lone ranger on that one. But I mean, I know like Canby, their allocations were very, very high.
they got those reviews. The last time I looked at the numbers, and I can. It's in a packet somewhere, but I can bring it to the next meeting. So every year, well, COVID interrupted this, but part of what libraries do is they provide a report to LDAP for every fiscal year that shows, here's the allocations that they're paying. So you can kind of see, and every city does it differently. There are many right ways, many proper methodologies you can use for allocations. But the one like sticking out of my head, like I think, for example, Lake Oswego, I think they get like 1.6 million in general fund, and then 600,000 comes back in allocations. I think West Lynn is like they get 900,000 in general fund, 700,000 come back in allocations. And there's some cities that I don't think do allocations, and I want to say Wilsonville is one of those cities. I don't remember seeing a Wilsonville allocation.
How many libraries bring services like IP in-house to avoid the allocation, or at least control it?
And the allocations they're not onerous. I mean, they're not reasonable and fair, I think, generally.
Okay.
My impression.
But ours is close to the general fund contribution, so it's.
Well, yeah, the problem is the general fund contribution.
It's the contribution piece, not the allocation.
Yeah, and I do want to make it clear that we get value from the services that our HR department provides, and our finance department provides, and our IT department provides, and I will say, as a department director, we have lots of conversations internally about what's a fair allocation and how did you calculate this and the like. But in general, we can't run a library without an HR department. And if we try to create our own HR department, it would probably end up costing.
Okay.
But as things historically, that delta between our net general fund and what our allocations are is just never over significantly over time.
Got it. That's the issue. Well, we are supporting some FTEs in other.
Oh yeah,
buildings.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, and yes, the general fund is yes, yes.
And sometimes it's done by FTE, sometimes it's done by square footage. I mean, there's lots of methodologies for allocating different funds, and they're doing a reasonable job. I don't have any issues with that. It's the net that I have the issue with, and so it really becomes the top line that becomes the issue. Well, any other comments on the testimony? Because I would like to get a board resolution sort of that supports my giving this testimony, so I can speak for the board.
The motion of the board has to review this and approve their presentation.
Thank you.
I want, can I make a friendly amendment?
See if it's friendly or not.
It is. I think it needs to go just one more step in that we designate David to speak for us.
Yeah.
Not just that we've reviewed this and that we approve that, but that as questions come up, as they probably will, that he is our designated mouthpiece. Representative, yeah, that we empower him to represent us in the questioning and answer process so that he has some freedom beyond this document, which we approve of, but that, yes, he speaks for the board.
Can you rephrase mine?
I'll let you do that.
Well, and that David is responsible for responding to questions for the board.
Right, on behalf of the board.
We have a motion, second, please.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
And if I may, I do want to say, I want to give Tony, our city manager, I do want to give him recognition, because when I talked to him about, like I said, this is the first time that we kind of figured out how we operationalize what it says in municipal code about the library boards participating. And so when I brought the idea to him of, hey, you've got department directors sitting at the table, what about having our board chair alongside us to provide that perspective and to be a resource for that? He was completely supportive. So I want to give Tony proper credit for that. He said, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
Is this a change that hasn't happened?
I haven't been around long enough to know. I understand.
Yeah, I don't think it's, well, Denise probably knows. I don't think it's happened before in my 5 years.
No, I don't know about you. No.
Well, sounds all positive.
Well, that's why I think this has been the avenue of least resistance to take money. I mean, I don't blame them for that. I mean, I've sat on the city council, and I know when there's no pressure coming from someplace, that's the way you go, just to get out of the noise. So we just need to provide some noise, some reasonable noise and well thought out. And I think that, the staff work that has supported this has been extraordinary and timely. And I think they're going to be open to it, whether we're going to have any impact this budget session or not, we'll see. We'll see.
I have another comment are we about ready to wrap up?
Yeah.
Oh, we still have to go through it. Never mind. I just wanted to thank David for his presentation to the commission. And it was really well done. And I think it made me proud to be part of the board. I think you did a great job, David, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I care about this. I know we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're getting great staff work and great board support, and I think the community needs to know that and hear about it. So, great, thank you. Okay, any other business before the board? Communications? Oh yeah, let's do communications. I'm sorry. Foundation.
You're not meeting this month,
Okay.
so I'll be giving you an update in May.
And feel free to share any of this with the foundation board. These are people in the community that support the library. They ought to know what's going on. And if they want to make noise, that's their business.
I think you should make the presentation to the foundation board. The city. Just a suggestion.
Happy to do that.
I would agree with that.
Okay, well, if you can set that up and let me know when, I'm happy to do it.
Right, I'll contact Krista Kruger as our chair,
Okay.
and I'll contact Krista, kind of give her some background with this, and then ask if we could put something on the agenda and give you that meeting date if you're penciling in your calendar. That would be May 25th at 5 p.m.
What day of the week is that?
That's a Thursday. And it's
That
normally in here, so.
That should be fine.
So I'll talk with Krista and our former chair, Karen, and I'll do something about this and then see about getting you on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, friends.
The big news was that their revenues continue to increase phenomenally. And among part of the revenue sources, they got about $550 out of the book sales from the shelves downstairs. You may have noticed they've got the new signage down there too, which is the other thing they did was approve purchase of the prizes for the Star Trek event and also the Lego set, but you already knew that.
I was too far away for Denise to kick me in there.
The nerd level here is, gets crazy. Anything from the LDAC?
Yeah, we were actually supposed to meet last night, but it got delayed until May 15th. And part of that meeting is to have a discussion about how we possibly could go forward, since the task force has been on hold basically since almost the beginning. I think it was noted that we had one meeting of the task force and then we got into COVID. So part of this discussion is this next meeting is to figure out if, how we might at least start a discussion around how we go forward from here in terms of with the three major areas for discussion.
Okay, anything else for the good of the cause?
Teens.
Oh, I'm sorry, teens.
They continue to meet monthly. The summer program was a big topic of discussion. They were developing the activities for the bingo board that kids do to earn the prizes. They're going to take part in May the 4th. They were invited to be part of the Juneteenth city celebration. So
Which will be here at the library.
Yeah, support that. And then there's going to be a collaboration with the new teen committee that the city has. So we'll see what kind of things they can work on together. Yeah, and then for next year, just a couple of kids that are graduating and leaving, but the majority of kids are coming back. So.
Right. And again, if there is a kid who's interested in stepping up, I'm happy to work with them, because I think it would be a great experience for them, and part of what we do is educational. So, yeah. Okay.
We'll just do the timing of it.
All right. Well, thank you again for all your flexibility. And it is now 5:59, and I call the meeting adjourned.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.